Ned Ryerson?
Bang!
So did you turn pro with that belly button thing, Ned, or
No,
what?
Phil, I sell insurance.
What a shock.
Do you have life insurance? Because if you do, you could always use a little more. Am I right or am I right or am I right? Right.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and man, oh man, it is Groundhog's Day. Helping us on today's podcast from Afford Anything, please welcome Paula Pant. And from lenpenzo.com, Bill Murray. No, I'm just kidding. He's chasing groundhogs over and it's Len Penzo. And from the Stacking Benjamin Show, G. But that's not all. How about a fintech company trying to make mortgages easier? We'll talk to Vishal Garg, CEO of Better. Plus, we'll answer the Bloom hotline for a lucky listener and serve up some Groundhog Day trivia. And now, because he poked his nearly bald head out, and that means one more hour of podcasting this week, Joe Saul-Sehy.
Hey, and welcome back to Groundhog Day. Sadly, I am very close to bald. I am Joe Saul-Sehy, Average Joe Money on Twitter, and we've got a fantastic Groundhog Day edition of the show today. First of all, sitting across the rickety card table from me, as always, the one and only OG.
We have a fantastic Groundhog Day today.
Yeah, it's Groundhog Day, not Groundhog's Day, is it? I think Doug's got that wrong.
I don't know.
Are there multiple groundhogs?
I don't know. It might be.
Let's ask the pro, the person. Let's go to Dad's Shortwave and see if we've got the person that knows more about this than anybody, I'm sure, on earth. It is from Afford Anything, Paula Pant.
Well, we've been introduced as a crack team, which means we are clearly on crack.
We must be. Something's bad. So tell me, groundhog or groundhogs? You're clearly the expert.
Groundhogs, plural, because in every given geographic location, there has to be at least one or multiple groundhogs, because otherwise you can't have 6 additional weeks of winter everywhere, like universally, right? Like the weather's going to be different in Alaska as it is in Florida.
So if you don't have a groundhog in Alaska, then you can't have the 6 weeks of winter? Is that what you're saying?
Well, isn't the idea that the groundhog pops up and if he sees a shadow, he gets scared of the shadow and goes back in the hole. Therefore, winter's going to last for another 6 weeks. But if he doesn't see a shadow, then spring is going to come immediately, which basically is a very confusing way of saying, is it sunny today or not?
Right.
Ned Ryerson?
There's somebody, Paula, who is, I believe, on our shortwave, who hasn't poked his head out of his bunker in years. It's from lenpenzo.com, Len Penzo.
No, but we should have Bunker Day. That's a great idea. You know, the Groundhog Day thing has always confused me too, Paula, because if it's sunny out, wouldn't you think, then he sees a shadow, you would actually think that spring would be here, wouldn't you?
It's on the way.
It's reverse.
Right.
It's so confusing.
I hate this holiday. I am protesting this holiday now, Len. I've had enough.
Good for you, Joe.
Yes.
Good for you.
Mind-blowing holiday. Actually, you know what else is mind-blowing? The fact that we are having the Stacking Benjamins experience. That was so bad. We're having the Stacking Benjamins experience April 13th through 15th in Clearwater, Florida. You can join OG and Kathleen and I in Florida. For those of you in northern, talk about cold climates, especially here after Groundhog Day. You're going to want to join us. You're going to show up hoping you'll get a great financial plan. And by the end of the weekend, you'll know more about your money, more about your budget. You'll have the milestones you need to reach your goals. And we're going to have a fun time doing it. You know what's going to happen, Paula? They might get to play a board game with me if they come.
Ooh, and maybe somebody will bake a cake in the shape of a groundhog.
That may be OG. Hint, hint. Hello, man. Hint. Yeah, so we're going to have some stretch goals on the number of people that come. And maybe you might see Doug there. You might see Len there. And you might see Paula there.
If I show up, I'm bringing groundhog paraphernalia.
You're going to have a groundhog on the plane as your support animal?
Oh, yes. My emotional support groundhog.
Yeah, they banned those now. Delta doesn't allow it.
They don't like groundhogs?
No, they really put their foot down on groundhogs and turkeys and chickens and all sorts of barnyard animals.
Yeah, I listened to this.
Salamanders.
I listened to this podcast, Betty and this guy with a suitcase, and she was talking a couple weeks ago about somebody that brought a kangaroo as their support animal.
Duh.
Yeah, because why wouldn't you? Right. Anyway, Stacky Ben.
To a kangaroo with my car once.
I'm going to try to get.
Really, he hit me.
I'm going to try to get through this piece. StackyBenjamins.com/experience for more. This show's becoming an experience already. And we're presented by Magnify Money. How would you like to save $450? Because that's what the average person saves when they head to Magnify Money. Shopping for the best in checking accounts, savings accounts, maybe getting a better credit card than you have now, refinancing those student loans. Whatever it is, it's on magnifymoney.com. StackingBenjamins.com/Magnify Money says, we sent you, as Mom says. We sent you. We've got a great show today. We're going to talk about the FIRE movement. You guys ready to get on fire? Are you ready? What is that? Is that John Lee Dumas thing, Entrepreneur on Fire? You ready, Paula, to ignite?
Joe, how come you always say we have a great? Do you ever say we have a crap show today? You never say that. It's always a great show.
I oversell, underdeliver. That's the name of the game.
Smart.
So let's move.
We have a
101.
mediocre show today.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamins headlines.
Our first piece comes to us from is it the Taucan? What do you think, Paula?
I don't know.
Taucan?
I did read the article this time.
What's up with that?
I know, right? I got bored.
The Taucan blog, Quest for Joyful Life and Financial Independence. I was clicking on this thing because it says fire.rip.2014-2018. And it says, when I created this blog, the sole purpose was to chronicle our journey for financial independence and joyful life. I wanted to share my knowledge with like-minded people. Goes on to say that without even knowing it, he was taking part in this FIRE movement, which is financial independence, retire early. And basically, Paula Pant, sticking with you, it seems like old Bob here, not that excited about the FIRE movement.
Well, he talks about a couple of things. There's a great quote in there that says something to the effect of, no matter where you go, there you are. So if you're not happy now as you're working towards FIRE, you're not going to be happy later when you are in fire, on fire, pants on fire, after you've been fired, which is a really good point. Like happiness cannot be deferred until later. So to the people who think that I'll only be happy after XYZ, and that XYZ in this case happens to be early retirement, check that assumption, because you could get hit by a bus tomorrow. That doesn't mean you should spend gratuitously, but it does mean that you need to cultivate some sort of inner happiness, some sense of contentment with your life.
Yeah, Len, I think that resonates with you, doesn't it? What Bob says here, that to Paula's point, if you don't like your job now, are you really things going to get better in your early retirement?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think what he's kind of talking about here too is a lot of people are just using this retirement as a catch-all to make things better, but it's not guaranteed. I mean, what you've really got to do is start way back in the beginning and find what you want to do and do it, and don't chase jobs, especially for money, if you can at all help it. So it's very important to start on a track early on, doing something that you love, and hopefully you can work towards a way to make money from it. I think that's the best way to do it. But if you're not happy in your job, I'm not necessarily sure retirement is the way to go. Just try to save a whole bunch of money and retire, because you still have to have a purpose and an aim in life.
So are you saying, Len, then don't chase early retirement, chase a new job if you hate your job?
Or chase a new job, chase a new vocation, chase something that you love and try and work around that. Because I'm telling you, I do not see how anybody can retire in their 30s or 40s. I mean, it gets boring. I can't imagine doing absolutely how much can you travel? How much can you go to ball games and spend money and sit around the house? There's have something.
There's people listening though, Len, going, I'll give it a shot.
I'm trying to I keep on telling Mrs. OG that all I want for dinner is steak, potatoes, and green beans. And she's like, you'll get sick of it. I said, try me, please try to get me sick.
No, don't you, like when you go on vacation, haven't you been, and Paul, I know you've probably done, you're out traveling. It's great at first, but I mean, after maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're like, oh, this is, you got to get back to being productive in some way. You know what I'm saying?
Certainly, but I think that is the point of an early retirement, is that then you have the option of being able to be productive in a way that is not necessarily tied to needing to earn a particular salary in order to keep groceries on the table and keep the lights on.
Yeah, but you got to plan, right? You got to know first, right? How am I going to be productive?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's critical. But, it could be the case that you decide to become a full-time stay-at-home parent, which is not an income-producing activity. It could be the case that you decide to open your own nonprofit or pursue an artistic career as a sculptor or a painter or a musician. There are plenty of ways that you could be productive that don't necessarily correlate with getting an income. And I think that's the purpose of the FIRE movement.
I think the RE in FIRE is kind of misplaced then, don't you? Isn't it really FI? I mean, is it really about being financially independent, Paula? It's not about retire early.
Yeah, I think that the emphasis on early retirement is misplaced. It's a nice sell. It makes a nice headline. But what matters is being financially independent, not being retired.
Oh, gee, how often are you seeing this more often? People coming in saying, I want this extreme retirement. Get me to retire by 32.
On occasion it comes up, but thankfully not too much, because everything that y'all just said is really what's happening. You can't try to find happiness or try to find excitement after you've, crossed a finish line, right? You have to enjoy the race along the way. When we look at life in general, do you want to wait and do all the cool stuff when you're 60 or retire early when you're 50, and then I'll do all the stuff that I really want to do? I mean, just do the stuff that you want to do now and don't tolerate the stuff that you don't like to tolerate. I think people just settle for too much stuff now. That's probably the problem, is that people almost feel like they have to martyr themselves to be able to qualify to retire or qualify to be financially. Well, I have to go through this trail of tears to be able to be okay with retirement. And that's baloney. You can be happy now, and retirement is not a time when you don't do anything. It's when you do what you want to do. So can you not technically be retired and at 32, but still doing what you love to do? I mean, isn't the phrase, if you like what you do, you never work a day in your life?
Right.
Yeah.
There's also in here, I want to pivot just a little bit, guys, because there's a point in here where they kind of talk about some of the clickbaity pieces of the FIRE movement, kind of, Paula, that, there's some people making some promises about retirement that really aren't true. Like, it's going to be a cakewalk afterwards. There's going to be confetti. It's going to be fantastic, right? People kind of portraying this as something different than what's real. Do you agree with that there's maybe some false promises in the FIRE movement community today?
I don't agree with that. I have not seen that. I guess in terms of mainstream media reporting on the FIRE movement, so when the article is written by somebody who's not part of the movement and they're just trying to fulfill a daily assignment and feed the content monster, sure, oftentimes the mainstream media coverage of the movement can be a little bit more clickbaity, a little bit more cakewalky confetti. But when you read bloggers who are going through this or who have gone through this, somebody like Mad Fientist talks at length about his search for meaning after he retired early, after he quit his job as a software developer, and, was then faced with big chunks of day in front of him and had to figure out how to use that in a way that was actually meaningful. So I think that there's a lot of that conversation that goes on within the movement. Yeah,
we talked to Jeremy from Go Curry Cracker too, and Brandon, the Mad Fientist, and both of them. I mean, neither one of those guys are just sitting around, right?
Mm-hmm. Mad Fientist is, he goes to the gym every morning, and after that he writes for several hours. And then after that, he's creating a musical album. That was actually the reason that I gave the earlier analogy of somebody who might want to pursue a career in music. Like, he's a perfect example. He always wanted to be a musician, but then he did the quote unquote safe thing and became a software developer. And now he's saved up enough money that he can quit that and pursue his dream of being a full-time musician, even if that doesn't make any real money.
That sounds like Len Penzo. I mean,
I was going to say, that's just my life in reverse. I did it the other way. I did the musician and making the album and doing the band thing in my early 20s, and it took me a while to figure it out. You can't make money.
You were a musician in your early 20s?
Oh,
yes.
What?
I
didn't know that.
Yes.
What did you play?
I still play, but
Len,
not very well anymore. I don't play it. I put it down. Guitar and bass guitar.
We got to play
Play the tambourine.
We gotta play your. We gotta play some music off your album sometime again. We did that a long time ago. We totally got to do that again. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to get played somewhere. I paid $25,000 to get the darn thing recorded of my own money.
It's a very good album. It's a great album. I enjoy it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is back before the age of the internet, when it's anybody and their mother could record sitting at their desk.
Podcast in a basement.
I actually had to go to a recording studio and pay by the hour.
What's up with that? Who does that? Yeah.
The old man here.
Getting back to this, Paula, I think I agree with you. When I read fire blogs, I'm not reading irresponsible stuff. I'm with you. I think it's when I read major media pieces, they're really selling kind of the sugar that's not really the heart of what these people are talking about. So
the sugar that's not the heart. They're selling the mixed metaphor.
Yeah,
Hey, so can you help me out? Because he mentions in here fat and lean fire. I'll be honest, I never heard of. To me, fire meant financial, insurance, and real estate. That's what that meant to me.
Right.
So this is the first I heard of the fire, and he talks about fat and lean fire, but he doesn't explain it. So what are those? Does anybody know?
Lean fire is the approach in which you slash your expenses in order to retire as quickly as possible. The big example of that is Early Retirement Extreme, by a blog by a guy named Jacob, where he lives on a budget of $7,000 per year.
Yes, I'm familiar with Jacob. Yep.
Yeah. So the extreme frugality minimalist approach to fire is lean fire, whereas the increase your earnings, increase your investments approach is fat fire. At least according to this article, that was the first time I'd ever heard the terms lean fire and fat fire as well.
Is that PHAT, fat? Like cool fire? No? All right. I think on that bad joke, we're going to move on. Our next piece comes to us from MarketWatch. Says it just got more difficult for bank customers to find a free checking account. Bank of America has shut down one of its checking accounts used by some low-income customers. It's written by Maria Lamagna. It says, bad news for low-income consumers. There's now one fewer place where you can store your cash for free. Bank of America has gotten rid of a free checking account called e-banking. Instead, account holders will be charged a $12 monthly fee if they don't have at least a $250 direct deposit that month or a daily account balance of $1,500 or more. The e-banking account debuted in 2010 and offered an affordable alternative to consumers without a lot of cash.
About time.
What do you mean about time?
I'm joking, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's like, wait a minute.
As a shareholder in Bank of America,
That's right.
I'm frustrated with the fact that we're giving all this money away.
Right.
He owns one share.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm the guy that stands up in the back of the annual meeting and goes, "Excuse me, I have a question." They're like, "Sir, you own one
think
share."
of all the interest the Bank of America was paying out to those poor checking account holders. What is it, 0.01% interest?
I don't know how they were able to keep their head above water with only $8 billion in profits or whatever. I mean, good thing they got rid of the $12 free checking account. I don't understand how people are actually still banking with major banking institutions and not credit unions. They tend to have a little bit better rates to begin with, and then on top of that, they're just easier to deal with. And with the internet being able to search all that stuff, like, how foolish is this, right? I mean, you can go, I want bank account good rate, click, boom, here you go. It takes 20 seconds and you don't have to do anything.
It just seems, Paula, like banks like Bank of America spend a lot of time and energy preying on the poorest people out there.
I think going with a major, unless there is some reason that you would have to go with a major bank, don't do it. Stick with a credit union. Stick with a small local bank. You'll stick with an online-only bank. You'll get much better deals. I don't know. I mean, it's shocking to me. I guess it's the lack of financial literacy, a lack of people's awareness that they have other options that are keeping so many people in these big prey on the little guy banks.
Len, you bank with a big bank?
Fairly large, but we have a credit union. We do most of our stuff through the credit union. But I will say this: my mother-in-law sold her house last year, and she got a nice profit off of it. And there was a lot, we took that and we said, well, we're not going to put all of that profit into one bank. So we spread the wealth amongst 5 different banks. And it was an eye opener going to we went to some credit unions. We went to one credit union, we went to 4 other banks, 2 local, a big one, Bank of America, and a medium-sized one. And I'll tell you, there is a big difference in service between the banks, and the smaller the bank, you got the better service. It was just better. It was just obvious. And so it was quite an eye opener.
I don't know. I got sick reading this article. We don't need to go into it too much. I think everybody has the same comment. Just get away, right? Get away from the bond. There's plenty of stuff to find online. I had to magnify money. I mean, go to a credit union. Just do something different. Bank of America, clearly. How many times does a major bank have to have these like
mud on your face type of articles?
Yeah. Yeah, because some bean counter goes, you know what we could do? We could charge that little guy. And the sad thing, to your point, Paula, financial literacy is so bad. You know what's going to happen? There's going to be a bunch of people who leave their money there and are only going to notice it when that $12 starts draining their account.
Or when they overdraft their account as a result of the fee, and then they have to pay an additional overdraft charge.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good profit raising opportunity. We should start charging the 3 listeners $12 an episode to listen to this stuff, and then when they don't pay, charge them another $35.
Right.
Well, the good news is that we sent you the episode anyway. The bad news is now you owe us $7.
Yeah,
I thought it was $12 an episode. Well, it's an overdraft.
Had you listened to it, it would have been much better. I think. So let's go over the lessons here, Paula. Between the FIRE movement and taking advantage of customers, what's the takeaway?
So I think the takeaway from the discussion about the FIRE movement is be happy, cultivate your sense of inner happiness, which comes from practicing gratitude, being content, exercise, meditation. Like, don't wait until the future to be happy. Be happy now. And you'll probably be happier when you aren't with a screwy bank.
Len?
Yeah, I would say for the FIRE, the grass isn't always greener on the other side of the fence. And if you're younger, try and guide your life towards what you like to do early, and don't just pick a job because you think it's going to make a lot of money for you in the short term. And then for what was the other one? The banks. Yeah, go small. Stick with the small banks and credit unions. The big banks don't care about you. You're just fly poop in the pepper.
Fly poop in the pepper. Oh, gee, follow that.
I know. I don't know that I've got a better analogy. The thing that I picked up from the first article that we didn't actually even spend any time talking about, so I'm glad you linked to it, is the piece about gratitude. And it dovetails a little bit on what Paul said around be happy. Practicing gratitude every single day and just being thankful for what you have certainly will help your mood, if nothing else, even if you have to go to that crappy job and get hosed by Bank of America, to the tune of $144 a month.
I'm so excited to introduce our next guest. He is the CEO and founder of a company called Better. And, I've thought for a long time that mortgages are a place that really is ripe for some of this fintech disruption that we talk about a lot on the show. Well, Vishal Garg is the man in charge of this new firm, Better. Their goal, which you're going to find out, is to make the mortgage process more simple, to make it faster, and way better. Is that a thing? For all Americans. He's also the founding partner of 1O Capital, a credit and financing technology incubator, where he's been a member of the founding team and currently serves as chairman of Climb Credit, the number in Phoenix Holdings. Previously, he was co-head and managing partner for Aramis ABS Group, managing $6 billion plus of assets, and the founder, president, and CFO of My Rich Uncle, which had a 2005 NASDAQ IPO. He founded that one, by the way, at 21. This is a guy who moves the needle, and I'm so excited we have him on the show. Let's say hello to Vishal Garg from Better. And coming down the stairs to the basement from Better, it's my new friend Vishal Garg. How are you, man? Did you have a personal story, or was it something?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I never expected to have a personal mortgage story. It was 2013. It was funny because I was a portfolio manager of mortgage-backed securities and student loan securities. And in my prior life, I had started the first online student loan company. So I thought of myself as relatively sophisticated when it came to consumer finance or the mortgage market. And yet I realized I knew next to nothing about the actual process of what you have to go through to buy a house and get a mortgage. And so even though we were fairly well off, my wife and I, we went to go find an apartment. And, like most folks, we had one child. We were expecting a second. And we thought, okay, why don't we stretch? Why don't we try to get something, so that the kids eventually could have a bedroom for themselves. I'd grown up in a middle-class family, and I think till the age of 12, me and my brother shared a bedroom and a bed. And, I was like, maybe that wasn't what I wanted. my two boys, I was like, can we do that? So we found an apartment that we wanted to buy. We found it like something that fit our budget. And we went to see it with a realtor, and we said, hey, this works for us. Me and my wife were like excited. We could see ourselves spending the next 10, 15 years raising our children here and sending them to school and making a life for ourselves. So we put in a bid, and the first question the realtors asked was, are you going to get a mortgage? I was like, yeah, doesn't everyone get a mortgage? He's like, are you pre-approved? And I said, what is that? That was when I realized that I might know everything about finance and securities and mortgage-backed securities, but I actually knew nothing about actually getting a mortgage. And so I said, no, we're not pre-approved. He says, well, I can't even take your offer unless you can get me a pre-approval letter from a bank. And that pre-approval letter's got to tell me that they're going to be willing to lend you the money to back up the bid. So you got to put down your down payment, let's say you're 20% of whatever you're going to spend. And then the remaining 80%, the bank's got to say they're good for that. So, okay, I guess lots of people, like 10 million plus people a year get a mortgage. So how hard can that be? And then I went through the process. So that night, my wife actually worked at Citibank at the time, at Citibank Ventures. And so we're like, she said, should we use Citibank? And I said, well, I heard like these commercials from the .com era where like on LendingTree, where like when banks compete, you win. So I'm going to go on LendingTree and try to get a better deal for us. So I went on LendingTree and I put in all my data and nothing would happen. Like they would just say, we'll be right back to you. And so eventually I gave up. I said, okay, fine. I went to sleep. Woke up the next day and my phone was on fire. And it was Larry from Larry's Loans and Joey from like First American Funding and Vinny from Second American Funding and somebody else. And all these people, all they wanted was to talk to me and say, I'm going to do your mortgage and let's get started. Why don't you give me your social security number? It's like, I am not in the age of identity theft going to just randomly send you my social security number and give you all my personal details, where we work, where my wife works, how much money we make, everything basically.
Well, and this is also, I'm laughing because as a recovering financial planner, Vishal, I saw this all the time, and you haven't even gotten to the point yet where the mortgage process has begun and it's a nightmare.
Yeah, totally. Like we haven't even gotten to hello yet, right? This is just the first thing. Right. And it's already pretty crazy. I think I counted 63 phone calls. And so what I do, I shut down. And I can't take these calls during work, right? It's like kind of embarrassing. You're not going to sit there. Most people now work in open plan offices, like telling everything about your personal finances, like going and talking about that, right? It's like kind of getting a medical report in front of all your coworkers, right? And sitting next to all of them. Right. And so I was not going to do that. And then when I'd say, hey, can I talk to you guys later? They're like, well, we're open 9 to 5, or you can come into a branch. I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this is not. How about Saturday, Sunday? No. Well, mortgage brokers are not open when people shop for houses. That made no sense. That was the first thing. I was like, oh my God. And it was like reminding me of when we went to buy a car and literally like, the car dealers are open 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And so it's pretty crazy. And there was the same type of folks there on the phone. So then we went and said, my wife's like, you don't have your stuff together. We're going to go and make an appointment. And so we made an appointment at the Citibank branch at Citibank headquarters where she worked. The guy said we need an hour and a half. So I was like, okay, fine. So go there, sit, on their couch, drink their water, and then sit like in the cube with the branch banker. And the guy's asking all these questions. And I was like, okay, fine. You're asking me these questions. I don't work for a big company, yada, yada. I get it. They started asking my wife these questions. And I'm like, wait, she works here. All our accounts are here. And literally they made her log into her Citibank account and print out the bank statements at Citibank to then hand over those bank statements to the mortgage guy at Citibank.
At Citibank.
It's like crazy. And I just realized this is totally messed up.
And I also know that, so in my early days as a financial planner, and this is going to date me, but I go get the newspaper, right, that would have today's rates. And then I found from an older advisor, he told me, and this is still the case, the rate that you see is everybody's best lie because the fee structure on mortgages, as you know, from company A to company C is spaghetti nightmare.
Totally different, right? So someone's going to say, yeah, I'll get you this rate, but that rate comes with like a 2-point origination fee. And another guy says, this is the rate, this is the no-cost mortgage, and it's something else, right? But they have something like a yield spread premium or a processing fee or a title insurance, all this crazy stuff. And basically, ultimately, but it got me curious because 15 years ago, I had spent a ton of time researching the student loan industry when I had a tough time getting a student loan, when it was tough. And we built this unbelievable company in the height of the dot-com era. And I said, there's just something here. And I started researching and I realized basically all of the technology that the mortgage industry used to have, or all the good stuff that people had built in the 2000s, had basically been thrown in the garbage post the credit crisis. And it had just been all absorbed by a couple of big mortgage brokers that effectively run like glorified call centers where they take your data, punch it into like Google Forms, and then turn it into like a manual phone and PDF fax process, or the big banks. And I said, this is terrible. If I, as a sophisticated person, am encountering this, what is the average person who's, 35 to 45 and trying to buy their home for the first time, where they want to raise their kids and save up savings so that they have money for college or for retirement? 70% of an average consumer's savings are in their home. The average homeowner has $157,000 net worth. The average renter has a $7,000 net worth. And it's been the vessel for savings and socioeconomic mobility for the bulk of like the past 60, 70 years in American society. It's like, if this is so bad for me, how bad is it for everyone else? And I started looking around, and what I realized is I started researching, and the deeper I got, it was so surprising that the way this industry basically operated like the internet was never invented. Why isn't this better? Why isn't this better? And I was like, well, you know what? I was in a unique place and time. We didn't end up buying a new place. And instead, I took the down payment, I talked to my wife, and we started a mortgage company.
Wow.
And we called it Better.
Yeah.
And we got lucky that we first registered bettermortgage.com. And I think it must have been fate, but literally after we registered bettermortgage.com, some guy in like Ontario, Canada, who owned better.com responded to my like cold email to him and said, hey, yeah, I like what you're doing, and I'd be down to do a deal to like sell you better.com. And I'm like, great. I was like, this is Kismet. We was meant to be, and we're here to make home ownership better for all Americans. And so that's how we got started.
That's awesome. Let's talk about how the process works then. How have you guys cleaned up the mortgage buying process?
So ultimately, the way we've cleaned it up is we really researched it, and we realized ultimately what mortgages are about. It's like a 3-way matching process. Kind of like you're on Spotify, and depending on your mood, what you've listened to in the past, your attributes and your preferences, you get matched with a certain piece of music and then recommended the next piece of music and so on and so forth. Or on a dating site, like you have a set of attributes and a set of preferences, and the person you want to date has a set of attributes and certain preferences, and you get matched. So mortgages are basically that, where you as a person, it's about your credit score, your LTV, the loan to value, which is how much is the house worth and how big of a loan do you need? Most people, like, if they've got buying a $500,000 place, they want to put down $100,000 down and they need $400,000 loan. And then your debt to income ratio, which is how much money do you make and how much money do you owe to other people, and the debt divided by your income, basically your monthly debt payments divided by your income, because they want to make sure that you're not over leveraged, right, at the time that you get the loan. So you're not in over your head. You're getting a mortgage or a monthly housing payment that you can afford. So those are the 3 key ratios that matter about a person. And then, with respect to a property, there are a couple of key things that matter about a property. And if you get those things and you're able to compile that data, ideally, really quickly, digitally, direct from the source, you can match that at the back end with all of these investors. So mortgages on the back end, huge market, $15 trillion in size, the largest financial market out there, 180 billion trades a day of Fannie mortgages. Basically, what we did was we connected this massive market and all these investors on the back end with their preferences with this matching engine. And we built the matching engine. We got on board an awesome team. You know, our CTO is a former head of machine learning and recommendations at Spotify. So almost more than half the code in the Spotify recommendation engine matching people to their music catalog is his. And we got him to start working on building this matching engine. We brought in programmers from all sorts of other consumer-facing companies that have made the process delightful. We knew that financial education is going to be really important. So we brought on board Taylor and Shalbala from LearnVest, and they brought their team over. And so, you know, we're creating an entire awareness and understanding of why home ownership is important, what's the best path to home ownership, and really educating the consumer. Because unfortunately now, you know, we had the health crises of the early 90s, and we started teaching sex ed in education, but we had a whole credit crisis where a whole chunk of people in this country didn't pass the basic, like, this is how much money I make, this is how much money I owe test. And we still don't have financial education or financial literacy in schools. So it's up to us to kind of educate the American consumer, particularly this next generation of young people, all the benefits of home ownership and how to make it easy. You come to a site, you tell us a little bit about yourself. We tell you the best house you can afford. We get you a mortgage and we help you buy the house. And you're good, and you're on your way.
Do you guys then service the mortgages after the mortgage is done? Because you talk about, you know, the machine learning and matching people on the back end. But you know, 5 years from now, is Better going to have my mortgage, or am I going to be with US Bank later on or some other company?
Yeah, so the way it works today is for a certain number of our mortgages, we service them ourselves. For another batch of mortgages, we are the master servicer and we manage the servicing. We eventually hope to do it all. And for others, we're matching mostly like jumbo mortgages that are $2 million or up in size that are special cases. In some of those cases, some of the bank investors that we have want to like service those themselves. And so we transfer the servicing. But our goal in the next 2 to 3 years is to insource the entire process totally for ourselves.
Cool.
And we've already started doing that for a huge chunk of, especially a lot of the more progressive or mortgages that we do that are for first-time home buyers. We service those ourselves.
No commission, no origination fee. I mean, that's a huge cost cuts for a lot of consumers out there.
Yeah, on average, like if you compare us to Quicken Loans, we're 1% a year cheaper. So on a $500,000 mortgage, we literally save you $5,000 a year, $450 a month in your pocket.
And if I can't sleep at 1 a.m., I can get my pre-approval letter from you at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a rare thing. You can get your pre-approval online, 3 minutes on your mobile. But really, when you want to get your pre-approval letter is when you're shopping on Sunday and you got to decide, should I call this mortgage broker that's not going to return my phone call till Monday, 9:01 a.m., right? Or I can just go online and just figure out what's the maximum I can bid for this house and make that bid right there and know I'm going to be good for it with Better.com.
And I love what you said about your wife working at Citi and doing the mortgage through Citi and her having to print out the stuff and send it to Citi, the bank account integration. I think you can't.
For us, basically, we get your credit bureau for you directly. We get your bank statements for you directly. We can get your W-2s and pay stubs directly. We verify your income directly. We can get the IRS statements and get it directly from the source, which is awesome also because that for many of the people financing us, before the credit crisis, like mortgage fraud was like 40% of defaults were related to mortgage fraud. That was people lying or loan officers or mortgage brokers lying about consumers' attributes. So all these investors were scared about that. That's how we make a better mortgage is we're able to deliver directly from the source. So our mortgages are lower risk, which means you can charge a lower rate.
Right.
And we can pass that rate on to the consumer and everyone wins.
Yeah, ultimately better for not just for the consumer, better for the lender, better for you, better for everybody. Yeah. Which a good name there, Better.com. We'll link to it in our show notes for everyone if you're out walking the dog or on your morning run or walk or driving to work, whatever it might be. Vishal Garg, thanks for hanging out with us for a few minutes and telling us about Better.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey there, trivia fans. There is nothing better than a good groundhog joke, is there? Oh man, I just found. Oh my God, it's just so funny. Okay, all right, I found the best site. Turns out that someone owns GroundhogDayJoke.com. I wonder how many millions some entrepreneur paid for that precious piece of real estate. It was totally worth it. Oh my God, there's such great material here. Like this one. What would you get if you crossed Groundhog Day with a puppy? Ground Dog Day. What a Groundhog Day. Oh my God. Or this gem. What happened when a groundhog met the dog catcher? He became a pound hog. It's pure comic gold, I'm telling you. I'd love to read you 3 or 4 more of these, but before I write some fan mail to this guy, I'll give you some groundhog-related trivia. How old is Punxsutawney Phil, a.k.a. the Groundhog? I'll be back after I poke my head outside and see if we'll have 6 more hours of Mom singing show tunes from that Greatest Showman movie.
Hey, Stackers, we get used to those same daily routines, don't we? Wake up at the same time every morning, brush our teeth, park the car in the same spot at work every day, recite jokes in the mirror to be funnier than that jerk at the water cooler? Or is that just me? Here's one thing you shouldn't make routine: using the same credit card from the same bank just because that's what you've always done. Nick Clements from Magnify Money explains why.
I mean, it's never been a better time, honestly, to find a credit card, especially given the lucrative sign-on bonuses that are out there. Chase just recently had $100,000 on their reserve card. I think we're at a point right now where credit cards are extremely profitable for large banks, and they are really wanting to get more customers. And so they're rolling out the red carpet. So I would just say if you have had a credit card for more than 2 or 3 years, chances are there's a much better deal out there for you today.
So why stick with that same old card with those rewards that haven't changed in years? You can use MagnifyMoney.com to always find best in class, including better interest rates. And don't only use Magnify Money for credit cards. Nick and the team have built the site from the ground up to help with personal loans, student loans, and mortgages. Average person saves $450 in interest when they hit StackYourBenjamins.com/Magnify Money.
When you're done messing around with us, who do you want to teach you some money tricks? That nerd who talks over your head, or your favorite basement-based geeks? Kathleen Selmans operates our Stacking Benjamins classroom, and to make up for the fact that we don't teach you anything here on the show, she's created a whole lot of tools you'll absolutely love. Head to learn.stackingbenjamins.com for details, and use coupon code DougRocks for 10% off. Yeah, you're welcome. Hey there, trivia lovers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and I have good news and bad news. We're going to start with the bad news first. There will definitely be 6 more hours of the Greatest Showman show tunes from Joe's mom. That woman's belting away to that cassette tape she's got stuffed into her boombox. Hey, but in better news, there are more jokes than you can shake a small furry animal at on this GroundhogJoke.com website. Listen to this scorcher. What happens if the ground log sees its shadow? We'll have 6 more weeks of splinters. Splinters? Can you see it's ground log, and splinters? It's subtle. You got to pay attention, but it's amazing. Oh my God. Or this side splitter. What do you call a groundhog who eats too much? A round hog. Not that one. Sorry, not that one. But anyway, I'd love to give you more of these gems, but how about some trivia first? Today's question was this: how old is Punxsutawney Phil, a.k.a. the Groundhog? If you said 126 years old, you'd be 1 year off, but it's understandable because I hear he lied on his driver's license so he could buy beer. Anyway, he's actually 127. The average groundhog lives to be between 6 and 8 years, but Phil, he takes a magical elixir every summer to extend his lifespan. One side effect, though, the elixir also changes his appearance, much like Doctor in the Doctor Who thing, which explains why Phil may be gray one year and youthful brown the next. Alas, the elixir does not work on humans. Quote, "We've tried, it just makes them fat and bald," says Ron Plauka, stump warden of the Inner Circle of Groundhog Club and co-handler of Phil. "If you saw some of our Inner Circle members, you can tell the ones that tried," unquote. See? And you think you didn't learn anything on this show.
And the winner, if we're playing Price is Right style, which is the way we always do this, Len Penzo, you're the winner.
No, I can't be. Am I the winner?
Yeah, you said 83 years, which, you were over 165.
But I was closest.
And Paula, 72. You should have said $1. Why did you just say $1? Or 1 year. Yeah, big stuff. Isn't that fascinating, Paula? You going to tell all your friends?
I'm tweeting about it right now.
Right. Speaking of things to tweet about, looks like somebody needs help. All three of those O's are sponsored by Bloom, Smart Simple 401k Management. Well, do you have a 401k? Remember how frustrating it was deciding what to invest in without professional help? Now there's a better way to grow your 401k. Bloom with 3 O's is a simple, smart, and affordable way to grow it. Go online to stackingbenjamins.com/Bloom to find out more. With Bloom, I don't say it right. Say it, Len.
Bloom.
With Bloom, you can simply connect your existing 401k in a few easy steps. But he wouldn't even say it that way, Len. He'd say, with Bloom, you can simply connect your existing 401k in a few easy steps. But we don't have 4 hours to do this. Then sit back and relax while Bloom performs an unbiased analysis of the funds in your account, chooses the best mix to meet your goals while minimizing hidden investment fees. Their pricing is $10 a month, regardless of account size. With their free analysis, you can see the impact they can make on your 401k before you even pay. And Bloom's one of the fastest growing robo-advisors fighting for your right to retire. I thought they were going to say fighting for your right to party. I would have been cool. Bloom is cool. Bloom is so simple. In fact, the hardest part's remembering there's 3 O's. Head to stackingbenjamins.com/Bloom and enter promo code SB for your first month free and see the difference Bloom can make in your retirement. We are helping. Bloom.
You know, that promotional code's almost ridiculously easy to crack. You ever do that? Go to those promotional codes and just start putting wild things in there and seeing if they'll work, like discount 5 or something like that.
Are you saying somebody could get away with the get away with the Bloom promo and not even listen to this show?
I mean, SB is kind of a random series of 2 letters, right? Imagine all the ones they would try first. AQ, DE, RT.
Stacking Benjamins, SB.
Yeah, but if they didn't...
but in terms of random ones to crack.
To Paula's point, if they don't know.
Put in SB.
Yes.
It's got to be like it's got to be a safe... Hey, Bloom, it's got to be a safe code, like SB ! Or something.
Great. Because they don't want anybody to remember it or use it.
They don't want anybody to use it. Yeah. It needs 2-factor authentication.
We're going to send you 6 emails and get your blood first before you head to that. Yeah. Well, are we ever going to get to the question here? This question comes from our new friend, Charlie. Say hi, Charlie.
Hey, Joe and OG. Charlie here. I love the show. Been listening for a while now and thought I would chime in with a question. I was hoping to talk to Mom, but it looks like I got her voicemail instead. Anyway, a little background info. My wife and I are both 27. We each give 6% to our 401ks to get the full company match. We don't have any debt other than our mortgage that'll be paid off in about 14 years, assuming we don't move. I just started a Roth IRA a few months ago and plan to max it out for this year. Before starting that, we did open up a 529 when our son was born about 10 months ago, and it only has a few thousand in it. I was thinking instead of continuing to add money into that 529 that I should open another Roth IRA for my wife and start putting the money into there. We would only have roughly an additional $5,000 to $7,000 to invest after we max out my Roth IRA. What are your thoughts on saving for retirement versus the 529? I am leaning towards opening the second Roth and maxing it out, since when our son goes to college, I think we'll be able to cash flow most of that expense since our home will be paid off. As always, I never learn anything. In fact, I think I might have just killed a couple more brain cells. Now I know how Doug feels. Thanks, and keep up the great podcast.
Thanks for the awesome note, Charlie. And Len, let's start with you, man. What do you think?
Guy?
You have 529 a Roth IRA.
I think I've made myself clear many times here that to me, I say for myself first. My kids always come second. So I would say the Roth. That's just me. But, you just don't know what's going to happen down the road. And I just that's how I feel.
You're a selfish Len
Yes,
Penzo.
I am.
I say for me. No, I'm kidding. Paula, what do you think?
Definitely the Roth IRA for a couple of reasons. First of all, having a secure retirement is one of the best gifts that you can give your child, because if your child, when they are in their 20s or 30s, has to worry about the fact that mom and dad don't have an adequately funded retirement, that's a huge stress on an adult kid. So saving for retirement is something that you are doing for your child. Number two, your kid can take out a student loan if needed, but you cannot take out a retirement loan. So frankly speaking, your kid has more time on their side than you do. And number three, if you want the best of both worlds, you mentioned that you would be able to save somewhere between $5,000 to $7,000. If you can reach the $7,000 mark, the higher end of that range, well, then you can save $5,500 in your wife's Roth IRA and still have another $1,500 per year to put into that 529.
So you're pretty selfish too, Paula.
I think that it's best for everybody involved when retirement comes first.
OG, what do you think?
Everybody's so pragmatic. Everybody makes too much sense.
Anything, Dad?
I would stop saving for retirement altogether. Just bank it all on your kid and hope he's a doctor. I mean, doctors make good money. Maybe a internet celebrity, or that's what my mom did. She went, hey, now that you're this internet celebrity, how about throwing some change my way? Paula's got it exactly right. And I think this is the important piece. Best thing that you can do is make it so your kids don't have to think about you. Really. I mean,
let me tell you something, because my kids know I don't have a 529 for them, right? And you know what made them accept that? I told them if I was going to be poor in retirement, guess who was going to be changing my diapers? It wasn't going to be some nurse at a home that I could afford. It was going to be them. So then they were all suddenly good with it.
They're like, gross, Dad.
Yeah. Who changes your diapers now, though? That's what I want.
That's what inquiring minds want to know, Len.
Yeah, you got to take care of yourself. I've had too many people come into my office at 52 or 58 and go, I got my 3 kids through college. They don't have a single drop of student loan debt. You know, I've cash flowed it all, and I got $119,000 in my 401k. How am I doing? Can I retire in 4 years? And you're like, no. Maybe in 14 years if you save half your money, right? So this is exactly right. You got to do your thing first. If you got cash flow, great. If not, kid can make it up as he goes. Join the Marine Corps.
Thanks for the question, Charlie. If you've got a question for us, head to StackyBenjamins.com and you'll see questions for the show. We also get mail, and Doug just brought down today's letter, which comes to us from Johnson. He says, I came to know about you through one of your sponsors, who's my employer. First of all, I want to thank you for making financial discussions entertaining. Doug is really hilarious. Oh, man. Do not let Doug read that. Also, I have to appreciate Joe's magnanimous heart for allowing Doug to poke fun at your mom. Doug might be one of the biggest narcissists I might have ever known. Doug might be one of the biggest narcissists. Might be. I have one question. I changed my employer in September 2016. We did not have a 401k initially, so in the beginning of 2017, I opened an IRA with E-Trade. However, my employer started a 401k sometime in July of 2017. My wife and I earn a combined salary of more than $200,000 a year. My question is that, am I allowed to have a private IRA since I have a 401k? Keep up the good work. As Doug says, this show could not have gone on without him. Right, man, somebody is in the Doug fan club, unfortunately. But OG, where do we go with this one, man?
So the answer is, yeah, you're allowed to have one, but no, you don't get a tax deduction for it. So because you have a 401k option at work, whether or not you participate in it is immaterial. But because it's there, the deductibility of the contribution is really limited based on income, and you're well above that. So no deductibility. It's fine to have. you're going to want to shift your future contributions probably to your 401k to be able to get the deduction.
But then Paula, he can still do, because the government just kind of indirectly put their blessing on this practice, right? The backdoor Roth.
Yeah, absolutely. So with a backdoor Roth IRA, you can put money into a non-deductible traditional IRA and then convert a pro rata share of that proportionate to your other assets in IRAs into a Roth IRA. So you'll want to get an accountant on board if you're doing that, because calculating the specific share of the amount that you put into the non-deductible trad is something that an accountant needs to do. But yeah, that is the legal loophole workaround.
The first time, Len, that Paula said non-deductible trad, I had no idea what the heck trad meant.
I'm still trying to figure out pro rata. So
it's slang. It's a millennial slang, millennial retirement slang.
You young whippersnappers.
Len's like 5 years later, I'm just wondering what the hell I'm doing here. What's going on here? Thanks for the question, Johnson. If you've got a letter, we prefer that you call the Bloom Hotline. But either way, Bloom Hotline. Sorry, I messed it up, Len. Head to stackybenjamins.com and it says questions for the show, and you'll see all the ways to get a hold of us. Thanks to everybody who's left reviews of the show. We get hilarious reviews, and this one's going on Mom's Refrigerator. 5 stars from VVVVVVVVVV. Hilarious.
This sounds like a legit review.
Yes. Yeah. Hilarious and informative.
Phone number?
Yeah, that's right. Joe is amazing, right? No, it says, I recently started following podcasts, and this is one of the best shows I've stuck to. Joe OG, I really want to know who that is. And Doug are hilarious. They don't teach you anything, yet you learn a lot. You'll not only gain a lot of useful financial information, but also learn how to present a great podcast combining jokes, knowledge, and trivia. He's listening to the wrong show. I always wonder how they could get fresh content 3 days a week, week after week, but they always manage to find something useful to talk about. Keep rocking, guys. Thanks for nothing and everything, Vineet. Thanks, Vineet, for that. And see how easy that was? That's going on Mom's fridge. Let's find out what's going on where all of you live. Paula will go ladies first. What's happening at that crazy Afford Anything podcast?
I have interviewed Rachel Cruz, Dave Ramsey's daughter. We chat all about the Rachel Cruz. Her team clearly made a mistake and let her come on my show. So we chat all about the childhood lessons about money that she learned as Dave Ramsey's daughter. And I asked her if she ever went through like a teenage rebellion phase where she was like, I'm just going to take out some debt. So you'll have to tune in for the answer. That is at the Afford Anything podcast.
Right.
I love that. And then I got an American Express card, Dad.
2% rewards, cash back. Len Penzo. And what's going on at that crazily titled lenpenzo.com?
Hey, in order to maintain the standards here of not learning a darn thing, I'm going to share the ongoing debate at my blog that comes up every once in a while about Miracle Whip versus mayonnaise.
Love that debate. The debate rages.
I did a 100-word post on it, and the back and forth with the readers on whether Miracle Whip or mayonnaise, especially on a tuna sandwich, is something to behold.
I got to say,
come on by and see what everybody's saying.
Hellman's Light.
Yep. Len, can you throw like veganese in there too, just to spice it up?
Veganese.
I heard of that. That's a new one. That's a new one by me.
I think vegan.
So one of my favorite little condiments is you mix veganese with ketchup and sriracha sauce.
Oh,
yeah.
That sounds delicious.
I'll stick with the mayo.
Yeah, I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. No,
you're from Michigan. It seems to me Miracle Whip is very popular in the Midwest.
It is. Yeah,
yes.
I grew up on.
My parents are from the Midwest, and that's what I grew up with as a kid, and I hated it.
I grew up with Miracle Whip, Len, and my mom bought that Country Crock. Like, it doesn't say the word butter anywhere near it.
Crockett.
Like Country Crock. We
just get butter. Well, no. I'm gonna go with this instead. This doesn't melt as good.
Right. All right, guys. Thanks for playing. We'll see everybody back here on Monday. Go stack some Benjamins. Doug, what should we have learned?
I'm doing good too. So see you. Bye.
All right.
Hey, Joe, why don't you get back to playing with that Beanie Baby groundhog you've got here, and I'll tell everybody what they should have learned today. Hey, Groundhog Day fans, And who doesn't that include? Hey, let's repeat what you should have learned today. First, interested in the FIRE movement? Start out by finding work you love and still save aggressively. You'll appreciate both of those down the road. Second, getting a mortgage? Take advice from Vishal Garg and watch the fees. They can drain your wallet in a hurry. But the big lesson? Don't spend too long on this GroundhogDayJoke.com site or you'll have a stomachache from these amazing jokes. Oh my God, they're so... Check this out. Why was the groundhog depressed about his den? He was having a bad lair day. No, it's so good. Oh, the bad lair day. A bad lair day. See, like bad hair day. Bad. Anyway, special thanks to Vishal Garg for joining us. For more on Better, head to better.com. Paula Pant appears courtesy of affordanything.com. And special thanks to Len Penzo from lenpenzo.com. This show was created by Joe Saul-Sehy, produced by Richie Rutter-Reese, and engineered by the amazing Steve Stewart. Kathleen Selmans handles design, newsletter, and classroom opportunities. If you'd like to learn more, head to stackingbenjamins.com/classes. Online, visit us on Twitter at @SBenjaminsCast or on our Facebook page. Shannon Cowan is our community manager and social media guru. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and I'm pretty much the guy in charge of everything around here. Trust me, this well-oiled machine didn't get like this all by itself. SB Podcasts may receive payment on the show from sponsors and guests in the form of books, giveaway items, discounts, or other remuneration. There's no way you would take advice from these dorks, but like Joe's mom always says, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only, and before making any financial moves, consult with a real financial advisor. And hey, thanks to GroundhogJoke.com for this amazing material. Check this one out. What do you call a royal groundhog? A groundhog. Groundhog. It's a groundhog. It's just, is there no end to this man's genius? I'm not ever going to leave this site.
Welcome to the after show. I don't know if you all saw this headline. Thirsty robot gets fired from supermarket job. This is unmashable. You see this, Paula?
No.
So they talk about how automation's coming to get our jobs, right?
Uh-huh.
Clearly, that's not happening today with this robot. Good news. A robot just learned dating rule numero uno the hard way, that coming on too strong and inevitably leads to rejection. Meet Fabio, a robot who was placed as a shopping assistant in the Scottish supermarket Margiotta. He was supposed to help customers find their items as well as give price information and do other helpful things that supermarket employees do. However, it turned out he wasn't doing great at his job, according to reports. Not only could Fabio not adequately give customers the information they asked for, his program personality quirks ended up creeping people out. He would apparently yell out, "Hello, gorgeous," to customers in greeting and give unwanted...
That's what I do when I go shopping.
Hey,
Same
gorgeous.
response I get.
And give unwanted high fives and even hugs. Boundaries, Fabio, heard of him? So unfortunately, when customers started actively avoiding Fabio, his Margiotta employers had to let the little guy go. They fired him, Len. They fired the robot.
You know what? To hear that, somebody call me gorgeous, I think I'd give the guy do robots accept tips?
Yeah, you're like all about it.
Oh my gosh, I think that who'd be complaining about that?
And this site plays. I seriously have no idea. Okay. Oh. This led me to wonder about jobs that you might have had that didn't work out, or a job that you got fired from. OG, I'm sure you've been fired from some rotten job or have just a horrible job story for us.
Oof.
Oh my, really?
Great music.
I found it on this one. Okay.
I've never been fired from a job, I don't think. I mean, I did kind of all the crappy stuff that you did as a kid, right? You wash dishes and that sort of thing. The place that I worked at is a pretty popular place back in nearby my hometown for this type of food they serve. If I say it, most people who are around there will know exactly what restaurant this is, so I'm not even going to bring it up. Big family restaurant. And now this was in the, I guess, probably early 90s. I guess maybe before there were people who checked on this stuff, but it was family style, right? So you'd get a plate of food, but it's for the whole table, right? And if you didn't use it all, a lot of times that would end up that of stuff, for the next group, which I thought was pretty
way.
Nice. Oh yeah, totally. Now it wasn't like mashed potatoes where people could stick their spoons in and stuff like that. It was more of the, main protein of the meal, but nevertheless,
you just lost your mic. This is so not our show.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make it any better. So I guess that's about it. I don't think that I've had a job that I got fired from. I used to do a lot of stupid stuff when I was a kid when I delivered newspapers, but that was more just mischief than.
Paula, did you get fired from a job?
Yeah, I was a server at a restaurant and I got fired on my very first day.
Really? Day one, what happened?
Day one. It was the second table. And it was a huge, I don't remember how many people were in the party, but they took up 2 different tables. So it was a table of maybe 6 grown-ups and then another table of about 6 kids. And the kids ordered their food first when the grown-ups had just ordered drinks. So I served the kids their food, and then they got all tired and cranky and they wanted to leave. So the grown-ups got up and left the table and canceled the meal after the order had already been sent to the kitchen. And the boss got mad and fired me.
It had nothing to do with you.
I'll say nothing to do with you.
I mean, I think probably he was just angry that I didn't have the, in terms of my responsibility, I should have been able to anticipate that was going to be a problem or just have better control over a party of 12. So, I was in probably a bit over my head. I'd never served a table of that size before.
That's but that's so frustrating. I mean, that says more to training or lack of training than anything you did, I think.
Oh, well, thank you. Now, in fairness, this was a brand new restaurant. It had just opened. So, the bosses had intentionally overhired with the intention of just calling.
And you were the first one to get called.
I actually was not
the first. That's what happens, folks.
I was the second one to get called.
That's congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
On not being the first. Len, I know that there's no way you've had a rotten job.
Well, I worked at a bank when I was younger, in my early 20s, and I got fired for taking about $200 out of a drawer once.
Did you? No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. I don't have anything. I just thought I'd make that up. The only thing I could think, I'm sitting here, everybody, OG and Paul are talking, and I'm trying to think, and all I could tell is, I worked as a box boy. And one of our jobs was to do cleanups, clean up on aisle 7, clean up on aisle 5, and clean up in aisle 12. I always made me shudder. I hated that because aisle 12 was the syrup, the pancake syrup. And that's back in the days when pancake syrup came in glass bottles. And have you ever tried to clean up a mess of broken syrup on a floor and trying to get that up? That was and there's broken glass. That was the worst job. It made me want to quit every time I heard cleanup on aisle 12. And let me tell you, that's just the worst. That's the only thing I can think of, but I've never been fired.
I couldn't. I should have been fired from McDonald's when I worked there one time. It was in the middle of summer, and I'm this high school kid, and I'm working the drive-through, and the boss told us 50 million times, always take people's money first. It wasn't like the new ones. And by new, I mean the ones this century. There was one window, right? You took their money and then you handed them their food. It wasn't this 2-window crazy system. But these two women had just come right from the beach, and actually they were, high school girls my age, and they're in bikinis in a convertible, and they pull up and immediately they start flirting with me, and I hand them their food before I get their money, and they smile and they wave and they like blow me a kiss and they pull away. And I didn't realize for probably 3 or 4 minutes that I hadn't gotten their money. I was like, oh, check that out. Oh crap. Like realized it later. And luckily I didn't get fired for that, but that was.
Did it come out of your pay?
Yes, they did dock my pay. Yep. Yeah, I ended up buying
$75 for 2 cheeseburgers.
Yeah, congratulations, women. I bought your fast food that day. There was another time though. I worked as a disc jockey playing late night parties, so you'd have this rotten fast food afterwards on your way home, and it's like 2:00 in the morning, and Taco Bell's open. I remember one day, and I pull up, and my bill is like $4.35, and so I pull up to the window. And I hand the dude a $5, and he gives me back like a $10 bill and 65 cents. And it was funny because at first I thought, well, I should give him the money back. And then I remembered this Emo Phillips joke where Emo said that he had found this wallet in a park, and it had the person's name and everything, and it had $100 in it. He said, at first, I thought, well, I should, what would I want to have happen? I want my money back. He goes, but then I really seriously thought, what would I want to have happen? And my brain said, I'd want to be taught a lesson. And I thought about that right then. The dude gives me my food and he gives me $10 when I just gave him $5. And I hate to say this, but I waved and I left.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you blow him a kiss on your way out?
I should have. Yes.
Hey, you know what? I'm just thinking you should have had Greg McFarland here for this conversation.
Oh, yeah, right. There's some stories about getting fired.
Yes, there are some stories.
Yes. All right, guys. Thanks for playing.